What if the biggest danger to Brazil's 2026 World Cup dream isn't the attack, isn't the defense, but the silence, the confusion, and the lack of clarity in midfield? 4 weeks now, we have been receiving small but important updates about Brazil's national team. We are hearing that around 11 players are already considered fixed for the World Cup squad, as long as they stay fit. We recently learned that Carlo Ancelotti is planning to give opportunities to players like Gabriel Jesus, Endrick Felipe, and Leo Pereira in the next match. Slowly, bit by bit, we are starting to understand who is close to the squad, who is on the radar, and who still has a chance to break in. But there's one area where everything still feels completely unclear, almost alarmingly so, and that is the midfield. When it comes to Brazil's attack, there is no panic. When it comes to the defensive line, there is concern, yes, but not fear. The real problem, the real danger zone, is the midfield. This is where matches are being lost. This is where Brazil is collapsing. There is no control, no rhythm, no authority in the middle of the pitch. And in modern football, that is unforgivable. Just look at the top teams in the world today. Look at Argentina. Look at France. Look at Spain. Look at England. These teams dominate games not just because of star attackers or strong defenders, but because their midfields are solid, structured, and well-defined. Their midfield units are compact, balanced, and synchronized. Brazil's midfield, on the other hand, still feels like a laboratory experiment. Endless testing, endless changes, and no clear identity. And that is deeply worrying, especially when the World Cup is no longer a distant dream, but an approaching reality. What makes this even more frustrating is the sheer number of talented midfielders available. Brazil is not lacking options. Brazil is lacking direction. Players like Éderson, who has been delivering consistent, high-level performances for Atlanta in Serie A, remain ignored. Week after week, he performs at the highest level in one of Europe's most tactical leagues, yet there is no serious indication that he is being considered. Arthur Melo, a proper central midfielder, rediscovering form and rhythm, also seems to be invisible in Ancelotti's plans. Gerson, a player who has already shown he can perform in Europe and South America, feels like someone who could be called, but even that feels uncertain. Matheus Pereira is enjoying excellent form, influencing games, creating chances, showing maturity, yet there is no clear opinion, no clear message about where he stands. Mauro Júnior, performing brilliantly for PSV, offering versatility, intensity, and tactical discipline, also seems to exist outside the conversation. And this creates a contradiction, because Carlo Ancelotti himself has said that the doors of the Brazil national team are open to everyone. That selection is based on performance, not reputation. If that is truly the case, then why are players who are clearly performing being overlooked? Why does form seem to matter in some positions but not in others? We recently heard that Gabriel Jesus and Endrick Felipe will be given opportunities. But let's be honest here. Gabriel Jesus spent nearly a year injured. He scored in a couple of matches after returning, and suddenly his World Cup experience becomes enough to justify his inclusion. Meanwhile, players like Igor Thiago have been scoring goal after goal consistently across an entire season. Does he not deserve even a look? If performance does not lead to opportunity, then what message are we sending to these players? Why should they keep pushing, keep improving, keep delivering if the door remains closed regardless? The same question applies to Caio Jorge, who scored heavily, showed promise, and still did not receive even a single call-up. Not one match. Not one opportunity. Why was he ignored? Why was he left out entirely? There is no clear explanation. Andre Sparrow was called, then not played, then dropped again. This constant uncertainty, this lack of transparency, starts to feel disturbingly familiar. Almost like the confusion we often criticize in other national teams, where no one really knows why a player is selected or excluded. And this is not about disrespecting Carlo Ancelotti. This is about understanding his vision. Right now, we are trusting him, but we do not understand him. We cannot see the plan. We cannot read the roadmap. And that is dangerous. There is a real argument to be made that Ancelotti may not even build a better team than Tite did. And if Brazil fails again, if there is another painful collapse on the biggest stage, it will almost certainly start in midfield. That is where the cracks are forming. That is where the foundation is weak. If in the end, Ancelotti falls back on familiar names, Lucas Paqueta, Andre, João Gomez, or similar profiles, it will not be surprising at all. Because when you ignore players with strong character, strong form, and strong consistency, and instead return to comfort picks, the outcome rarely changes. You can call up Fabinho, yes. But why can you not keep Arthur Melo? Why can you not trust Éderson? Why can Andre Pereira not be given continuity? What could be more disappointing than watching an entire year pass without establishing a clear midfield core? Carlo Ancelotti has effectively been in charge of Brazil for about a year now, and still, beyond Casemiro and Bruno Guimaraes, there is no fixed structure, no settled trio, no clear combination. Even now, with the World Cup approaching rapidly, the midfield remains a question mark. After all this time, what exactly is going to change in the final days before the tournament? If Brazil delivers a disappointing World Cup performance, it should not shock anyone. At least, it will not shock me. Because we still do not know what Ancelotti's midfield plan actually is. We still do not know who comes after Casemiro and Bruno. The attack exists. The defense is being discussed. But the midfield, the heart of the team, is still empty, still undefined. That said, this is not a message of despair. There is still room for hope. If we see Brazil perform well in midfield against strong opponents like France or Croatia, if we see cohesion, chemistry, and control, then trust will grow naturally. Confidence will return. But if the midfield continues to feel unreliable, if the names do not inspire belief, then Brazil will not go far. That is the harsh truth. Modern football does not forgive weak midfields. And until Carlo Ancelotti shows a clear, convincing, and courageous plan for this area, questions will remain. The talent is there. The time, however, is running out. Now we wait, and we watch, to see what Carlo Ancelotti really does.